Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel No Networks. Today we will be configuring firewall rules and the NAT policies. Before we proceed, let me recall you what we did in our previous tutorial. We have learned what are firewall objects. These firewall objects are being very much useful when you are creating a firewall rules and the NAT policies. We have seen what is IP host group, MAC host, service, service group, interfaces, and zones concept. So let's proceed to the configuration for the firewall rules and policies. Before we proceed further, let's have a look once into our network design. This is what the design we will be configuring. We will be deploying a Sophos firewall using this design. So till present, what we did, we have configured a VM network 1 and we have assigned that to port A of the Sophos firewall, which is network adapter in VMware workstation. Now we will be assigning the same VM network 1 to both the PCs whose IP address we are going to configure as 10.1.150/24 and 10.1.1.100/24, and the gateway we will be giving the gateway of port A IP address. So let's start with the VMware network configuration to assign VM network 1 to both the host. Going to VMware workstation, this is our client PC 1. For those who are the beginners, they can see through the link which I have mentioned how to create a virtual machine with Windows operating system. Let's go to client PC 1. In the setting, you will assign VM network 1 to this client PC network adapter. You will customize the virtual network and you will say vmnet1. Click OK. Similar to client PC2, you will go to setting. Over here in the network adapter, you will select custom and assign vmnet1 to client PC2. Moving further, we will be assigning the IP addresses as per our network design. Client PC1 IP, we will give 10.1.1.150, and to client 2, 10.1.1.100. We'll give the static IP as 10.1.1.150. Subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0, and the gateway will be the port A IP address, LAN port IP of the Sophos firewall 200. For now, we will leave the DNS blank. Say OK, OK, and close it. Moving to client PC2. Over here also we will give the IP address 10.1.1.100. Subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. Gateway will be LAN interface IP of the Sophos firewall 10.1.1.200. Over here also we will leave the DNS blank. Click OK, OK, close. So at very first we will see whether both the machines are reachable till our firewall. Yes, this machine is reachable. Let's check for this machine. Even this machine is reachable. So now the port A of the firewall, uh, client machine 1 and client machine 2. These three are in VMnet 1. They are connected to the same network where the LAN interface of your Sophos firewall is connected. Moving on to create a rule. At very first, what we are going to do is we will be adding all these host IPs in the IP host. This is where you have login. When you have login, this was the page you land into at very first. You will go to host and services under system. Host and services. You will create IP host. You will give the name client PC1 and the IP address is 10.1.1.100. Let me confirm. Sorry, it's 150. So just to inform you, you have IP version options to configure IPv4 as well as IPv6. We are selecting IPv4, and because we are doing a lab on IPv4 address, we are using IPv4 address. Type, you have four options over here. It can be IP, it can be network, it can be IP range, or a IP list. We are using a single IP, so we have opted for IP. If you want to define the entire network with a subnet, you can do this like this also over here, or else you can define an IP range. Like let's say for example, you want to define a range of 10 IP addresses starting from 10.1.1.10 to 10.1.1.20. You can do it over here by selecting IP range. Or if you want to allow a random IPs within a same network, within a same subnet, then you can do so by simply typing the IP address followed by comma. So over here we are using IP, so I will choose IP and I will proceed further. The IP address is 10.1.1.150 for client PC 1 and I will save it. I will add my other client PC as well. This PC, the IP address is 10.1.1.100. I will say client PC2 and the IP address 10.1.1.100 and I will simply save it. So I have added two of my host machines. Moving further, I will move on to rules and policies. Now my requirement is, let me take you to the network design again. My requirement is the internet from both these machines should pass through this Sophos firewall and reach till the internet. This both machines should reach to the internet through Sophos firewall. For now, you have, let me tell you what are the default options you can see over here. These are the groups basically. So you have three pre-configured groups over here. The group name is traffic to internal zones. Traffic to internal zones means, as the name says, internal means any traffic coming from outside to inside. Any traffic coming from WAN to LAN, Wi-Fi, VPN, DMZ can be grouped in this. Let me open the rule as well first for you. New firewall rule. So over here you see the group concept. It is saying automatic. By default it is on automatic. There is none means you don't want to group this policy. Whenever you create, it will be out of any group. Then traffic to internal zone, traffic to WAN, traffic to DMZ. So if you like for example, if you're defining that this group policy which you are creating should be in traffic to internal zone, it will be seen in that particular group accordingly. But if you choose that automatic, the groups will be chosen automatic, then it will read the group name and accordingly it will decide. Like let's say for example, you have selected automatic and you have created a policy from LAN to WAN, from inside to outside. So that will be coming under this group, traffic to WAN. If you are creating any policy whose destination is DMZ, so whatever the source is, that particular policy will be grouped in traffic to DMZ. If you are creating a policy where you have a traffic coming from outside, from the WAN interface to internal, whether it is LAN, DMZ, Wi-Fi, whatever, So any internal interface, and you have chosen automatic group, then that particular policy will land in this group. So I believe this group concept is clear to you. And the fourth one, you will see auto added firewall policy. This policy means from any source, any to any, it is allowed. So what we will do, see, if we create any policy and in further future we do any kind of filtering, that won't be any use. That won't be for any use for us, because by default you have a policy any to any allowed. So before proceeding further, what we are going to do is we will disable this policy. Let's disable this policy, auto added firewall rule policy. Moving on, the last one which you have is drop all. So what is the function of drop all? If any of the policy starting from the top till bottom, traffic doesn't hit to any of the policy, then finally it will land in drop all policy and the traffic will be denied by default. So let's make one rule where both the pieces should reach to the internet through a Sophos firewall. So we will say add firewall rule and new fire. We'll click on new firewall rule. We will give the name as LAN to WAN. Then description is optional. Rule position, we will place it on the top. Action, you have accept, drop, reject, protect. You will select accept because you want to pass the traffic. Coming to the rule group, let's say first of all we will select automatic and see where it lands. Then later on we will remove it and we will place it on the top also. But as if now we will keep automatic. Then log firewall traffic. Just check this box because you will get the logs for all the traffic hitting on this rule. Moving on, it is asking you for source. So you will say add new item. You will search over here for the host which you have added. Our host name we have given client PC1. Sorry guys. It is source zone. So where is our workstations lying? It is in the LAN interface. So just, let me show you. See, we are this both of our machines are in the LAN interface. Port A is LAN. Okay, so we will say the zone is LAN. So, and guys, don't get confused in zones, because in our previous tutorial I have given very clear understanding about the zones. Now over here that will come with the mistake which I was doing over here for selecting source, network and devices. Over here you have to search for the machines which you have added. It's client PC1 and client PC2. Before moving, we will okay, let's select this client PC1 and client PC2. It is asking for schedule. For now we will keep for all the time the default one. Destination zone will be WAN. Apply. Destination network will keep any for now. Service is basically to for the internet to work on any machine you need HTTP, HTTPS port and DNS port. For now we will say services is any. When we will be doing identity, user identity and awareness, in that particular session we will be doing the filtering on the user base and all. For now we will leave it as it is. Web filtering we won't touch now. We will be looking this in when we will be doing a tutorial on web filtering and application filtering. So guys, this rule is created, okay, but let me tell you, for any rule to be created, in order to reach that internal IP addresses, that is the private IP addresses over the internet, that is over the public IP address, you require natting. I have already done one tutorial on natting, so I will be putting the link in the description box for your reference how natting works. So what we have to do over here is we have to create and link the Nat rule. We have to create a Nat rule and link to this policy. So there are two options. Either you can go to the NAT option and do the netting, or else straight away from here you can link the NAT rule. So maximum time the people, what mistake they do is they create a policy very properly in Sophos XG firewall, but still their internet doesn't work. The reason is they don't, either they don't create a NAT rule, or if they create a NAT rule they don't link it to the firewall rule. So what we will do, straight away from here you have an option, you will click over here, you will create a NAT rule and link to this policy. So click on this create link NAT rule. The new box is open for you. So the rule name, it has taken by default LAN to WAN. Rule position is on top. Original source, any original destination, any servicing. So as it is, you have to keep everything. You don't have to change anything except this option. Translated source, you will select MASQ. What is the purpose of selecting this MASQ? MASQ lets your private IP addresses to go over the public IP addresses. Basically, do the translation of the private IP address to the public IP address, so that your internal IP address is able to access the internet. The machines which are using the private IP address are able to reach over the internet. This is what MASQ does in Sophos XG firewall. So when you created a link on NAT rule, over there this window opens. Only over here in the translated source as NAT, you have to select MASQ and you have to save this. And thereafter you have to simply save the rule which you created. So friends, your policy is created. The rule, the firewall rule which we created now, it is there, but it is not visible. The reason is you have selected the rule group to be automatic. Since you have created a LAN to WAN rule and selected a group to be automatic, so you can find this particular rule in traffic to WAN. Just click this plus icon and you can see the rule is there over here. In order to make this rule visible and make it out of the group, what you will be doing is you will open this rule, and over here in the rule group you will say none. And one more thing, when you was creating a policy you selected automatic, but now it has taken the group name as traffic to WAN. We will say none, and you can see the group, the policy is on the top. See, you can see the rule is placed over here and it is not belonging to any of the group. Moving on, let's go to our client PCs and just check about the internet. Very first, we will try to ping over here the Google DNS, and it is pinging, which means you are able to reach till the internet. Let's open the browser over here and we will browse some website. Let's go to google.com. Very interesting thing over here is you are able to ping to Google DNS, but still you are not able to browse. Although you are able to reach till internet, but you cannot browse. The reason is very simple. When we have configured the IP addresses, at that time we didn't provide the DNS IPs. So we need a DNS for resolving the host name to IP. Sorry. So what we will do over here, we will go to our network settings, and over here we will be configuring IP address. See, as if now we don't have any DNS server deployed. Definitely in the coming tutorials we will be deploying our AD Active Directory. We will be integrating with that. At the same time we will be deploying our DNS server, and we will test that with our internal IP address, DNS IP. You can see that you can browse to the internet, but for now we have to use some external DNS. We will be putting the Google DNS, that is 8.8.8.8. Say okay, close this, close it. We will try to browse something, and you can say see that now you are able to browse. Similarly, let's go to client PC2. Over here also we haven't configured the DNS IP. So although you can ping the global DNS, but you cannot reach to internet. The solution is same. We have to configure the DNS IP. Let me show you over here as well. Yahoo.com, and it's not reaching. I mean, it is not resolving. Go to Ethernet, change adapter options, properties, and we will add the DNS server address. Now you can reach to the website. Coming again to your firewall part, now we have verified that your client PC1 and client PC2 both are able to reach to internet through Sophos. In order to verify, we will be going to log viewer, and we can see the logs over here for the client PC. The source IP to be 10.1.1.100 and 10.1.1.150 reaching over internet using the firewall rule. The firewall rule is rule number 5. Let's verify this. This is, sorry guys, Nat rule is rule number 3 and firewall rule is rule number 5. So this is rule number 3 and this is 5. The firewall rule is 5. Sorry guys. The firewall rule is number 5 and the Nat rule is number 3. So this is how you can configure a firewall rule. You can create a Nat rule and link that Nat rule to the firewall rule. Moving on, let me give you a brief description about the natting. Let me open my notepad. Okay guys, so natting are basically of two types. One is based source based NAT. Another one is destination based NAT. So what happens in source based natting? It is also called as dynamic NAT. And over here, destination based NAT is also called as static NAT. So let's understand the difference. See, whenever you are going from inside to outside, over there you will be doing a dynamic NAT, or it is also called as source based NAT. Whenever you are coming from outside to inside, you will be doing a natting to convert to translate the public IP to the private IP. Moreover, in the case when you are publishing your web server, over there you will be doing a static NAT, also called as destination based NAT. Over here today, what NAT we did is basically a source based NAT. It can be many to one. Basically, this is used for translating your private IP addresses to public IP address, also called as dynamic NAT. When in the coming tutorial, when we will be deploying our web server and we will try to publish it over the internet, at that time also we will be doing a natting in order to get a traffic from outside to inside, that is to translate the public IP address to a private IP address. So over there we will be doing a destination based NAT, also called as static NAT. So guys, now we have completed configuring our firewall rule and the NAT policies. Moving on, we will just try a multiple combinations using IP host. Now what we did is IP host. We will be doing with IP host group and we will be defining the services and so on. So at very first, what we are going to do is, instead we will now create a IP host group. So how you will define a IP host group, I will show you that. I will say client PCs. I am creating IP host group now. Going to host and services, over here IP host group. I will add both this and I will save it. Moving to rules and policies, instead of selecting a source network and devices separately as client PC1 and PC2, I can give a IP host group. I will simply say one second, why it is not reflecting over here. So guys, what we have done basically over here, we have created a firewall rule with the source zone as LAN, the source devices as client PCs, destination as WAN, and we have allowed FQDN star.google.com means anything with respect to google.com or a subdomain will be allowed. Any of the services, whether you are trying to reach to HTTP, HTTPS, ping or anything for the Google, it will be allowed. Rest all things will be blocked using this policy. Let's justify this. We will go to our client PCs. We will try to open. Let me close it and open again the browser. Over here, what we are going to do, we will try to access our Google website, google.com. Okay, one more thing we need to add over here, the DNS. I mean, we have configured the DNS over here as 8.8.8.8. So the DNS is the part which is missing. We will create in the destination, we will be creating one IP. We will say Google DNS. We will give the IP as 8.8.8.8 and we will save it. Simply say save the settings. So guys, coming over here in the client machine, you can see now that we are able to access Google and rest all will be blocked. So let's move ahead. We will be now changing the policies as per our services. We will define the services and let's see what we will do now. Over here in the same policy, we will keep source zone as LAN, source network and devices will be client PCs, schedule will be all the time, destination will be WAN, and destination network again let's keep any. The services, uh, basically to access the internet, what you need is port HTTP, port HTTPS, and port DNS 53. Basically, these three protocols are required for you to access the internet: HTTP, HTTPS, and DNS. That is port 80, port 443, and port 53. So, what is our policy now? LAN to WAN. The source zone is LAN. Source network and devices is client PC. Schedule time is all the time. Destination is services. In destination zone, it is WAN. Destination network is any. Services are DNS, HTTP, and HTTPS. All policies features are by default. Web filtering by default. Application filtering by default. NAT was already linked. We are only changing the firewall rule. We will save it. Guys, the policy is updated now. Again, let's move to the client machine. You will try to open google.com. You will try to open your Yahoo website. Everything is working, right? Because you have allowed DNS, that is port 53. You have allowed HTTP. You have allowed HTTPS. Now over here, there is one thing very interesting. You haven't allowed ICMP. Am I right? Yes. So let's open the command prompt, and over here again, let's try to ping globe Google DNS. Ping 8.8.8.8. Let's keep a continuous ping, and over here you can see it is not pinging, right? Why? Because you haven't allowed ICMP over here. Internet is working, everything is working smoothly, but you are not able to ping because you have restricted ICMP. You haven't allowed ICMP. That is the reason it is not pinging. So just to justify this, that this rule is working exactly how we are configuring. Let's add the ICMP over here. Apply selected item and save it. Let's go to the client machine now once the configuration is updated. So guys, the configuration is updated. Let's move on to the host machine now. Let me show you the rule first. It's LAN to WAN. The source zone is LAN, and the source network or devices are the client PCs. The destination zone is WAN with any host, and the ports which we have allowed, the services which we have enabled earlier was HTTP, HTTPS, and DNS, and we saw the ping was not there, the ping reply was not coming. Now we added ICMP, and let's go to the client machine, one of the client machine, and you can see the reply started to come over here because your ICMP protocol is working now. It's enabled on the policy. So just to recall what we did today, guys, starting in the today's tutorial, we have configured very first we have configured our VM network, and we have assigned that VM network 1 to both of our machines. Our firewall was in VM network 1, that was a LAN port. The same we have assigned to this one. What this one, port A, which was in LAN, assigned VM network 1. Similarly, we have assigned a VM network 1 to both the client machines, and we have configured the IP address. Thereafter, using this IP address, we have configured two of the host, and after configuring the host, we have created a policy. We have seen the group concept over here, and we have configured the firewall rules. We have linked the Nat rule to this particular firewall rule. Additionally, we have used the source concept where we have assigned the source to be your host PCs. Then we change the source to the IP host group. We have seen either of the way it was working. Then we have seen by defining the object to be FQDN host. Then we try to change the services. So in short, we have used all our firewall objects to create a policy, and we saw that we have justified that each and every policy was working as we have configured. So that's all for the firewall rules and policies. I believe I have explained you everything in detail. If you, in case you have any doubt, any questions, please feel free to comment in the comment box, and I am always there to help you in this. In the next coming tutorial, we will be seeing about the web filtering, application filtering, and we will be creating a multiple policies. This was only one for a policy which we created for understanding the firewall rules and policies, but in the coming tutorials, we will be configuring multiple policies, and we will be playing with the web filtering options, application filtering options, and many more to come, like IPS, ATP, and much more. So thank you guys for watching my video. If you like my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and share with your friends. Thanks, and see you in the next video.